is the revolution. I wanna hear everybody sing. Everybody sing freedom. Man and woman sing freedom. Everybody sing freedom. Everybody sing. As we move in this people's revolution, my brothers and sisters.
Thank you very much, Gordon. Political Leader of the United National Congress, Mrs. Kamala Prasad-Bisesa, Members of Parliament, Senators, members of the National Executive, online viewers, including our international viewers in England, Kapil and the team in Canada, Vida and Angie and others in New York, and others across the globe and in this gathering here tonight. I wish you a good night. Having heard the fire from my presenters here tonight, I hope that I can live up to that legend. Ladies and gentlemen, this PNM gang has lost all morality. They have lost all moral authority to govern this country. It feels like every single morning when I wake up, I have to read on social media about some illegal activity that this Prime Minister, Keith Christopher Rowley, is presiding over. It is as if to be a minister in this PNM government, you have to be corrupt, arrogant, greedy, incompetent, abusive, insensitive, a pedophile, a liar, an absolute crook, or a combination of all of these characteristics. And what is worse is that the more of these nasty qualities you have, it seems that the higher you could rise in the PNM. We have a Prime Minister who is a known liar. From Email Gate to Petrotrin Gate 1 and Petrotrin Gate 2 to INS Gate to Police Service Commission Gate and much, much more. We have an Attorney General who lied in court in writing, signed and notarized and was thrown out of a case that he is in charge of as AG. That's Armour Gate or Limor Gate. We have a former Attorney General who is reported to have given a confessed criminal alibi. My brother before spoke about it. That's Nelson Gate, and they have much more to come out regards to that. And while I'm on that, I want to ask former Attorney General Faris Al-Rawi a question. Asking for a friend. Residents of San Fernando have been protesting about the haste with which Minister Faris Al-Rawi and his colleagues have been pursuing the construction of homes in an area identified officially as a school zone. I have been provided with a photograph, it's on your screen now, of an adjacent parcel of land near the waterfront in San Fernando. It is rumored that this parcel of land belongs to a well-known South-based PNM family, and with the current waterfront development taking place under Minister Al-Rawi, that the land will soon become a gold mine. The rumor is that the housing development being pursued close to that particular piece of land can facilitate the relocation of persons squatting on that private piece of land that you see there, allowing the landowner to reap billions in value without having to spend a cent from their own pocket. I'm asking for a friend. If any PNM minister has any pecuniary or familial connection to this land, because, ladies and gentlemen, we may have another land gate on our hands. My colleague before spoke about the other minister, Mr. Sleepy. Mr. Sleepy. And that we will have to call that Behind's Gate. Ladies and gentlemen, you're not safe in this country. It doesn't matter if your house is burglar-proofed, if you have security cameras, if you have dog, if you have cutlass, if you have whip, if you have stick, if you have gun, you're not safe in this country. And while that's happening, the minister's sleeping because he has 24-hour security. You think that's right? Behind's Gate. There's a minister of nothing works. My colleague spoke about it before, Khadija Amin. You have a minister of nothing works. Well, he alone by himself about 20 gates, from Seabridge Gate to Paving Gate to Pothole Gate to Flood Gate. They have had Stepdaughter Gate, EBC Gate, Malcolm Jones Gate, Border Gate, Delsey Gate, NGC Gate, Child Abuse Gate, and more coming. There are more gates in this government than Bhagwan Singh and Rupnarine put together. You know, just a soap opera, some of you may recall, it was called Scandal. The lead character, if you all will recall, was a lady called Olivia Pope. And every week I used to put on the TV just to look to see what the new scandal is. You know, that is what we feel like today. Every day when you put on the TV some new scandal, that is completely unacceptable. And worst part about that is these scandals are not free. Billions of your dollars have been spent by this government to commit corruption and to cover up corruption and nepotism. Conservative estimates done by a professional has estimated that this country has lost to corruption over $5.2 billion every single year. That works out to more than $36 billion under this PNM government. And that has been the responsibility of one man. Call Imp's Bert. Over the last 7 years, over $400 billion have been spent. I have maintained from time immemorial, from the first chance I had, that the shortage of money has never been the problem from this government. They have always had money. They have always had money. They inherited billions in the Heritage and Stabilization Fund, billions more in foreign reserves, billions more in taxation revenue streams, and in dividends to be collected from state enterprises and companies left there by Kamala Prasad-Bissessar and her administration. Every scandal that we just spoke about, every gate that has emerged has been funded by you, taxpayers. The money spent in corruption and to cover up corruption should have been spent to improve the quality of life, to improve your standard of living, invested in activities that are designed to create an environment in which businessmen will be motivated to invest. That should have been the priority of this government since 2015 when they took office. A healthy, growing economy, ladies and gentlemen, translates to more and better jobs. It translates to better government revenues, improved standard of living, and yes, lower crime. And this has a multiplier effect because as you fix the economy, everything goes over, everything grows, and in the growing, it continues to push the economy forward and grow more and more and more. This is what the Kamala Prasad-Bissessar administration did between 2010 and 2015, despite the global and economic crises that we have faced locally. But you see, what is required is leadership. A deliberate policy is common sense, you know. Identify where you want to go, when you want to get there, and what you have to do every single day, every single month, and every single year to get there. That's how you need to get this thing done. You need a policy and you need a plan. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is where Imbert has continuously failed this country. Because instead of confronting his shortcomings and finding avenues to fix the problem, he continues his arrogant, flippant attitude, blaming everyone for his failure except himself. I have reached a point, ladies and gentlemen, where every time this Minister of Finance opens his mouth, I feel like telling him, God forgive me, HYMC. Hush your mouth, come! Last week, Finance Minister Colm Imbert, in responding to concerns raised by business owners about the substantial delays in the government's ability to pay VAT returns, claimed, and I want to quote, "We have an inefficient VAT system. The problem with the VAT system is compliance." Well, let me show you how much rubbish that is, coming from this man. That's why I tell him, hush your mouth, you know. Let me tell you how much rubbish that is. According to Imbert, he could not pay the VAT refunds to people who obeyed the law and paid VAT because some others didn't submit their VAT returns. That makes sense? He can't pay the people their money because somebody else didn't pay theirs. That makes absolutely no sense. It's foolishness. What Imbert has been doing as a result is victimizing law-abiding citizens, victimizing businessmen who have paid their VAT on time. And while he's doing that, victimizing these people, he is giving his friends a blight with VAT amnesties on a regular basis. So he is promoting the breaking of the law. Ladies and gentlemen, if you know you owe the people their money for VAT refunds, stop playing games. Pay them their money. They should not be made to suffer because you, Mr. Imbert, has failed to prosecute the persons who refuse to pay their VAT refunds. I challenge the minister tonight, if he's awake. I challenge the minister tonight to make public the name of every single VAT offender and an explanation as to why Minister Imbert and his government have not prosecuted these people to ensure compliance. You can't be victimizing people who are following the law and giving your friends a blight. That is wrong. Where else in the world does this happen? Where people who follow the law are victimized by our government. And we paying them? That's wrong. But the hypocrisy doesn't end there. This same man, called Imbert, then says that the government's policy is to pay out arrears to smaller enterprises first. According to Imbert, and I quote again, I am painfully aware of the problem of delayed VAT refunds and how it affects small businesses in particular, because in some instances, $100,000 is make or break for business in terms of VAT. He knows it causing problem, and he's still not paying them. That is malicious. That is bad mind. That is hate. That is evil. That is despotic. That is a shame. Minister Imbert, do the honorable thing. Resign and go. Resign and go. But it seems that because corruption and nepotism and mismanagement is something that your government loves, they will hold you to it, they will keep you. Now, when that distraction failed to take away from the public attention from Imbert's spectacular loss in court on the basis of his vindictive prosecution of former governor of the central bank, Joala Rambaran, Minister of Finance was then in a more desperate need to change the public narrative. So on Wednesday last week, he did the impossible. This man, Minister Imbert, tried to take credit for the higher than expected revenues from the energy sector in the last few months of fiscal 2022. According to the reports, the minister boasted that total revenue for 2022 was almost $11 billion more than it was initially estimated to be. This must be the only finance minister in the world who would have been so wrong as to misunderstand and misaverage the revenue of a country by not 1% and 2% and 3%, you know, by 25%. That is absolute incompetence. And this is not the only time and the first time. He has been consistently wrong in every estimate that he has made. As the leader of the opposition has said before, his maths not mathsing, his brain not working. Plain and simple. He has been consistently wrong. Ironically, while admitting that the increased revenue was a direct result of higher energy prices on the world market on the one hand, Imbert then shamelessly claimed that his government had almost balanced the budget and had now managed to reduce the budget deficit to $329 million. Well, let me tell you something, ladies and gentlemen. Imbert have nothing to boast about. The fact is that the only reason that this country is seeing higher revenues today is because of the high energy prices driven by the Ukraine-Russia conflict. That had nothing to do with his government. It has nothing to do with anything this Minister of Finance has done for the last 7 years. The only economic policy that this minister knows is tax, 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 tax. This is like being back in school and you're watching the board. Tax, 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 and nothing else. Now we have money. Now we have money. You have $11 billion more than he estimated. God alone knows what he's going to do with that. God alone knows what he's going to do with that. The fact, too, is that oil and gas production today is lower than it was under when Kamla Persad-Bissessar was in government. Given the closure of Petrotrin and the failure to properly incentivize energy companies, the initial adversarial posture of the government against multinationals, it is obvious that any higher revenues being seen now is being seen despite the blunders of the government of Trinidad and Tobago, led by Keith Christopher Rowley and this Imbert fellow. And boasting about balanced budget when the government owes billions in tax and VAT refunds, when multiple salary negotiations are still outstanding for periods long since gone, owing billions more to contractors and service providers, boasting about balanced budget then is foolish. It is an obvious attempt to fool the population, to deceive the population into believing that somehow something positive is happening, when the truth is that this is absolutely impossible right now under this government. Boasting of a balanced budget at a time when central bank earlier this month, October, revealed that the threat of a growing welfare dependency syndrome and the fact that social protection systems that exist right now are dwindling. It's not reaching the people it's supposed to reach. Well, I want to warn this minister that this energy boom that he's benefiting from is short term, and prices will return to their normal levels soon. And when that happens, we will end up in a crisis, ladies and gentlemen. Not surprisingly, the minister has said nothing, not a word, about what the government is going to be doing with regards to borrowing, because he had planned to borrow $14 billion in fiscal 2022 just a few weeks ago. I want to ask Minister Colmember tonight, WTF? Where are the funds? Tell this country exactly how they will benefit from this windfall. What are you going to do with this unplanned $11 billion? What are your priorities? Will you now meet your financial obligations to businesses? Will you settle outstanding wage negotiations? Or will you continue to fund the corruption and the cover-up of corruption, which we have seen and witnessed over the last 7 years? Ladies and gentlemen, having spent the last 4 days in flood waters, sometimes up to my waist, and seen the rural neglect of my constituency and the state of the national infrastructure where citizens cannot get water for 2 and 3 weeks continuously, where criminals run this country, I am of the view that we cannot continue like this. This government has proven that it cannot run this country, no matter if they have billions in their hands in expected or unexpected revenue. The time for change is now. The time for change is now. You have it in your hands, ladies and gentlemen. It is time to stand up. I believe in the spirit of our people, our patriotism, our ingenuity, our strength, our commitment, our dedication, our potential. United, we can restore and rebuild this country. We have done it before, and we will do it again. My name is Dave Tancoo. I am the Member of Parliament for Urpuch West, and I am UNC and proud. I thank you very much, Dave.